Okay, so the last example we're going to look at today is the pizza example. So once again, this uses lists to store the data. You'll see this is a common theme in the examples so far. It uses lists to store the data, which is the pizzas and the toppings and their prices. And then this example, it's fairly short actually. It just generates a random pizza with between 1 and 3 toppings. Okay, so you can see there we've got this function called getRandomIndex, which gets a random number from the length of a list that is passed. So if I pass a list with 3 items, say the pizzas, it'll pick up a random index between 0. So there's 3 items, it'll pick up an index between 0 and 2, 0, 1, or 2. So it'll pick one of those. We can then use that to pick a pizza. So you can see that function, if we give it the list of pizza types, which there's three pizza types, it'll pick a random type, and we can also get the price of that by picking the same item, or the item with the same index in the list of prices. So if it generates the number 1, we'll get Napolitana as being the pizza type and £7 as being the price. Same thing for the random toppings, except that now we've got to generate up to 3 random toppings. So we use this randint to get a random number between 1 and 3. So it's either going to be 1, 2, or 3. And then we loop over that number, whatever that number is. So again, maybe it picked 3 random toppings. We loop around that loop 3 times. We get a random index from the toppings, the list of toppings. We use that to get the type of topping, which could be one of these 3 things: mushrooms, cheese, anchovies, or sausage. We add that to the description. If it's the first one, we set it to, we use the words with extra, otherwise we just put a comma on, and then we get the price from the same place in the list of prices for the toppings, and add that price to the price of the pizza. And then finally at the bottom we print out you've won a pizza worth and whatever the pizza price is. Okay, so that, as I say, picks a number between 1 and 3, picks the extras at random, and generates the description and calculates the price. And we print that out at the end. So example output might be you've won a margarita with extra cheese, sausage, and anchovies. So that's the maximum number of toppings you could win, and it works out. It's worked out the price. Oops. Or if we run it again, you've won a Napolitana with extra sausage worth £8.80. Each time we run this code, it'll only generate 1 pizza. But because of the way the code is written, if you notice, this random number generated here, when we look at the extra, we get a random extra. It's quite possible that we might get the same extra over and over again. You could get the same extra 3 times, in fact. So it's quite possible that you'll get a pizza with extra cheese and then extra cheese on top of that. We'll fix that later on, but that's a problem with the code at the moment. Okay, so that's our third example. And something you may have noticed is that these are examples. If you run them, they all work, but none of them are really ideal. And generally, we've had to store the data in lists because at the moment, that's all we know how to do. And the problem with using lists is we have to make sure they're consistent. So they all have to be the same length. So for example, in the Uni app, we have to have the list of user names has to be the same length as the list of user IDs, which has to be the same length as the list of infos, even if some of that information is none. So there's no information there. So as I said, sometimes the lists are storing redundant information, so user ID is set to none for guest users. None of them are very flexible. So in the Home Hub, how would we cope with a variety of devices that have lots of different functionalities? So far we've got on, off, and up, down, but what if some of them have play, pause, some of them have start time, end time, there's motion detection. We'd have to have lots of if statements in our loop, checking for different possibilities. And what we're going to see as we work through this module is that the idea is behind object-oriented programming allow us to model a variety of different but sometimes similar things in code. Okay, so very much like the examples. So each, if you think about the home hub, each device is kind of similar to each other. Some of them go up, some of them can be turned on and off, some of them can be turned up and down, but some of them are very specific. The music player's got a specific play functionality. So that if we do this kind of thing in object-oriented programming, we can actually get code that's much better and much closer to the device. And what we'll see is this often we're using the ideas of object-oriented programming to kind of group data and functionalities together. So, for example, for the if you think about the home hub again, the heating, we want to group the name of it. So it's called heating. We want to group whether it's on or off. We want to group the temperature and the actual temperature setting all together in one place, rather than having them in 4 different lists. And some of those things we're going to group together, they're going to be different. So the music player, as well as needing to know about being on and off and volume settings, it also needs to know about play and pause. And we'll see ways of even making use of that, so we can build one kind of thing that can do sort of basic stuff, and then we can build other things like a music player that can do a bit more than just the basics. Okay, so what have we looked at today then? We've seen an introduction to the module, some suggested textbooks, extended examples, code organization, and PyCharm. Not mentioned on this slide, but we looked at PyCharm as well. And then we've looked at the 3 examples that we're going to use throughout the course, and we'll be developing them each week. So there's the Home Hub, which is a basic Internet of Things simulation. There's the UniApp example, basic messaging app simulation, and the pizza example, which at the moment is just generating random pizzas, but which will, in a couple of weeks' time, allow the users to actually pick their own pizza and the toppings they want, and even pick several pizzas and put them all in a basket. Okay, I hope you found that interesting. I'm going to finish the video here, and I'll see you next week.